Okay, it looks like the recording has started. Welcome to our La Crosse County Human Services all vendor meeting. Today we have on the agenda, we have some requests for proposals that we will talk about that'll be being released in the next few months. And then we will go over our children's long-term support waiver vendor information that we have to be shared. And then also CCS vendor information, so comprehensive community services. So first we'll go around and we'll do introductions. We'll do internal introductions first, and then I will go ahead and try to alphabetically call off the agencies that I've seen get on and that have RSVP'd. And then if I miss anybody at the end, we can get to them then, or if anybody hops on in the middle of that. So my name is Chris Sander, and I'm from La Crosse County Human Services, and I am the contract unit supervisor, and I do have two of my contract unit staff on. Maybe they can introduce themselves next.
Hi, I'm Paul Mettinger. I'm the contract coordinator for Human Services.
Hi, I'm Cindy Werschke. I'm the contract unit clerk that you send the final contracts to. So
and then maybe the ISRS staff that are on.
Hi, I'm Angie Welch. I'm one of the, sorry, I gotta change my view here. I'm one of the CLTS waiver supervisors.
Hi, I'm Emily Inkling. I'm one of the CCS supervisors.
Hi, I'm Christy Harold. I'm the QA supervisor.
Hello, I'm Ellen Daubert. I'm one of the CCS supervisors as well.
Is that everybody internal?
Oh, I just hopped on. This is Shelly Tollefson from the waiver.
Okay. Okay. So we'll go down the list of agencies that are on, and I'll just try to alphabetically hit everybody. If I don't get somebody, just at the end, you can introduce yourself. Let's see. Adams and Associates. But I saw Susan on. She had to get off. Okay. Almost Family or LHC group.
Hi, yes. This is Andrea Ramirez, and I am the Area Executive Director for Almost Family of Wisconsin, and we have an agency in Alaska.
Active.
Hi, my name is Lisa Duncanston. I'm a Regional Services Director. We provide services out of La Crosse and Black River Falls.
And I'm Jessica. I'm the youth supervisor at Active.
And I'm Kyle Hungerold, the youth manager at Active.
I did forget to say, if you have any announcements for your agency, now is a great time to bring that up. Any upcoming trainings or events that you're doing, or new programs and that type of thing. Attic.
Hi, I'm Carla Campion. I'm with Attic Correctional Services. I am the supervisor.
And Mark Wakefield, Vice President of Operations.
Black. Okay. Catholic Charities.
Hi, my name is Olivia, and I'm the Community-Based Services Coordinator here at Catholic Charities, and we also have our Live By program.
Shalita.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm the Director of In-Home Support Services with Chalita. Just an update, we're currently in the process of applying for CCS so that we can continue serving our clients who are receiving both CLTS and CCS. Unfortunately, we have extremely limited staffing for our behavior technicians. So we're able to provide more of that unpaid caregiver training versus the direct daily living skills at this time. Hopefully that'll change sometime soon.
Chippewa River Industries.
Hi, I am Jennifer Williams. I am the area service manager for La Crosse.
I do see in the chat that Andrew Rasmussen from Black is here. His Wi-Fi is spotty, so. Driftless Job Finder.
I'm Ellen Clayson with Driftless Job Finder. I'm the owner operator of Driftless Job Finder. I am an employment specialist and an individual skill builder. Nice to meet you all.
Easter Seals.
I am Brenda Nelson. I'm the camp building specialist here at Easter Seals.
Welcome. Bill Humphrey, Essential Skills.
Yeah, hi, it's Bill Humphrey. I'm with Essential Skills. I'm the owner operator of that. I live in Viroqua, and I do independent living skills and wellness management. My background is in wilderness therapy. So the announcement I have is spring is coming, and we're going to be getting outside again.
Yay.
Okay, we do have Matt Groh with Christian Servants Home Care on. He put his name in the chat. And then also Sue Johnson with Adams and Associates is on. She's not able to get her speakers working right now. Family and Children's Center. So Mary.
I'm sorry. Hi, Mary Jacobson with Family and Children's Center.
Flying Horse.
Morning, Lisa Carmichael from Flying Horse Stable with Equine Assisted Learning Activities. Hi, everybody.
Gateways.
Hi, this is Kristen Lutz with Gateways Counseling Services.
Hope Restores.
Hi, this is Tashira with Hope Restores. A couple of announcements that I have is we have our virtual coffee with Hope Restores on March 18th at 8:30 in the morning. If anyone's interested in joining, it's just a great opportunity to learn about our African American Resource Center here in town and how you can possibly connect and be a part of it. And then the other thing that I have to share is that we have launched a Paddling for Hope campaign, which is a way for the entire community and families to get involved. And that'll be on our website as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Horse Sense.
Hi, good morning. Sammy Hall here. I'm the director at Horse Sense, and we will be kicking off our 2022 season of therapeutic horseback riding lessons on Monday. So we are very much looking forward to that.
Independent Living Resources. Not on yet. Innovative Services.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Hudson, Regional Administrator for the Western Region. And we do CCS, CLTS, and then we also have CSL in the region.
Lori Knapp Companies. Mastering Life Skills.
Good morning, Stacy Masters here, and I am a life skills coach.
New Horizons.
Good morning, Ann Kapoff, Executive Director of New Horizons Shelter and Outreach Centers.
Person first.
Hi, it's Christy Brownwriter, Assistant Director for Person First Supportive Services and Homes.
RSVP. Stein Counseling.
Good morning. This is Krista O'Brien with Stein Counseling.
The Parenting Place.
Hello, this is Allison Ilstrup. I'm the Director of Family Support Programs at the Parenting Place. And our biggest update is starting April 1st, the Parent Education Department will be bringing back in-person services here at the Parenting Place. So just watch our Facebook page, our website for all the details if you have families to refer.
Trailways.
Good morning. This is Angie Grogan at Trailways.
ARC.
Good morning. Liz Filter, President and CEO of VARC. I appreciate Bill's update on spring coming, so thanks for sharing that, Bill. Ours is a little less exciting, but we have a few updates. I'll turn it over to Jenny shortly, but our largest one is that we're moving our adult service and programming location to the south side of La Crosse in a newly expanded facility across from the Clayson dealership on South Ave. So that will be our third La Crosse facility location, serving adults, both CCS and through long-term supports at that site. So I'll turn it over to the other folks on the call from VARC.
All right, Jenny Getter, VARC Child and Youth Services Program Manager. Our building, we are not moving. We are staying in our same location where we have been, over on Gillette Street near the river. And I was also going to mention Bill's update on spring, and after spring comes summer. So yay. And we're gearing up for our summer services. So we're taking referrals for that now. Shelby's going to send out some more information to social workers. So with that, Shelby, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Shelby. I am the coordinator at the La Crosse location of our Child and Youth Services.
Viroqua Nutritional Counseling.
I'm Laura Mathis, a dietitian with Viroqua Nutrition Counseling.
Did I miss anybody?
I'm Renee with Flax Guardians Program Manager.
Anybody else?
I'm Maisie. I am with Nystrom and Associates in La Crosse.
I'm not sure you heard that. I'm Sue Johnson, and I work with Adams and Associates, and my speaker wasn't working at the beginning. So I think we got it figured out now.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Well, now that we know spring and summer are coming, we're all in a better mood, and I am anyway. I look out at the ice rink in my backyard and think, oh, it's coming. So next on the agenda is our request for proposals. At this time, we have 3 of them on there that will be released in the next, hopefully 3 months, 3 to 6 months, I will say. But the first one that we're going to cover is the children's intake screens. And I will have Angie or Shelley just kind of give a quick summary of what that looks like. Right now, we are contracted with the Parenting Place. We We contracted last year, halfway through the year for this because it changed for us and we needed to get something in place. So we're looking at releasing the request for proposal this year to start, I believe, at the beginning of next year. So if Angie or Shelley could just talk about that real quick.
Sure. So if you have specific questions, I think, feel free to reach out to us. A general broad overview is we have developed a kind of like a one-door access for children's intake, and currently we contract out for that. What that means is anyone seeking children's services in La Crosse County will go through this children's intake process. So it doesn't matter if they mention program names or anything. Really, it's just a one-stop resource. And then the role of the agency would be to reach out to the referral. Sometimes it is parents, guardians, sometimes it's schools, medical facilities, and work with them regarding the referral. And then, obtain records, and essentially would be trained in doing the approved functional screen, and which then would determine eligibility for programs. So currently the Parenting Place also uses our avatar system, so it's very streamlined from the point of referral that we're all in communication up until the eligibility, which then it's just really handed back to us to then start working with the family on program enrollment. So yeah, did I miss anything? Shelley, Emily, Ellen, anyone else on? It's just kind of like a broad overview of kind of the children's intake process.
So Angie, I have a question for you then. So if somebody comes to us and says, we're looking for services, who do we contact at the county to get started? Should we direct them to the Parenting Place then?
Yes, and we do have some materials that are, we can forward that, clinics and schools have as well. There's an online intake if they want to do an online. Also, you can just also call and they'll take the information from there.
Any other questions on that one? Okay, so the next one is CCS Psychoeducation, which we're working on right now. So this will be the first one that we release of the 3 that are listed.
Yeah, so we're doing psychoeducation for CCS. It's the service array. I guess I'll talk about what the service array definition is, and then how it's going to look a little slightly different this time around. So individual and family psychoeducation is the services would include providing education, information, resources about the consumer's mental health and or substance use challenges. It focuses on the diagnosis and the need, and not necessarily the individual, that's where therapy would be more conducive. But other services related to psychoeducation would be skills training, problem solving, addressing barriers, ongoing guidance about managing and coping with mental health and substance use, social and emotional support, and services can be provided to, or when services are provided to family members, it must relate directly to the consumer's identified needs. So the one thing that we're slightly changing this year to help kind of differentiate these different categories is psychoeducation is we can provide services to family members or natural supports without the consumer being present, if it ties back to the consumer's needs. And so any service that we previously were supporting family members under, whether that was skills or wellness, we are now going to be rolling that under psychoeducation. It's more inclusive to kind of that array category, and that would be one way for vendors to differentiate between those 3, because there's a lot of crossover between individual skill development, wellness, and psychoeducation. Psychoeducation can be skill building, can be providing education and resources, some providing coping behavioral tailoring, but it's really the difference is that we can provide services to the family members or natural supports to the consumer. And so if you're an agency that is currently providing, whether it's parent peer support or other kind of support to the family members, we're going to have that run through psychoeducation now. So if that falls within your agency, we would strongly encourage people proposing for psychoeducation, because we haven't used this service array category very much, but our intent is to start moving things over into psychoeducation if it's directly working with family members as well. I hope that makes sense. Does anyone have any questions around psychoeducation?
I think I do, Emily, just because we are offering parent peer support. So am I understanding this correctly, that we would want to apply for psychoeducation?
Yeah, and you're one agency that it definitely will impact, because I think your services are under wellness right now.
Right.
And we've gotten different recommendations from the state that services provided to family members or natural supports really ought to be under psychoeducation. And so we really want the more people to propose, the better, because that'll help with rate setting. And yeah, and I don't know, Chris, if you wanted to talk through, I guess, the difference that we've been doing in CCS around proposals.
Sure.
But
so with skills and wellness last year and psychotherapy, psychoeducation was a part of the psychotherapy RFP that we released, and but we didn't get a lot of response that way, and we felt like we wanted it to look differently and separate it out. So what we've been doing is an RFP for a network of providers. So it's not like a normal request for proposal that you'll have to submit. Normally, when we release this and we're looking for one vendor, you would have to put together a packet of information that goes through, that's several pages about your agency, your services, and that type of thing. Basically with these, what we've been doing is outlining what we're looking for, what the services look like, and we have you respond with a one-page, yes, my agency is interested in providing these services. We outline Jackson, Monroe, and La Crosse County, and then just give us a little bit about why your services might look different from other agencies, and just, maybe a half a page, maybe a paragraph about your services. And then we also have you fill out our budget request form, which gives us just some background to setting your rate. What we do is we take all of the rates that are submitted and we average those. So the more rates that we get, the better the average is going to be to cover everyone that wants to provide those services. So this will be an RFP for a network of providers. This used to be, when we released it, we would pick a preferred provider, but we've come along so far from that we know there's not one vendor out there that could be a preferred provider and take all of the referrals that, didn't have a choice, that didn't want to choose their vendor. So this is our new way of doing this. So far, I've gotten some responses saying, positive responses from this process. So that's good. We tried it out last year for the first time and kind of did something that nobody else has done before, and it seems to be working okay. So is there any questions on that process?
I do have another one. Sorry.
Okay.
Are we able, and so with this proposal, we're still able to determine what our referrals look like, or be pretty specific about these are the referrals we're typically accepting for parent peer support? Because they do look a little different for us. So we would just put that in the proposal.
Yep, kind of outline what your specific service would be. And yeah, and each agency would still have the ability to, accept referrals or not based on, your staffing and just your scope of practice. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
I
I
think
have a
Bill
question.
had,
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Chris. My question was for, and this could be fairly elementary, but how do we get more information, or how do we follow up if we're interested in the proposal?
Sure. If anybody is not currently providing CCS skills, wellness, and psychotherapy, anybody that's currently providing those services will get an email from us when it's released. But if you're not, just go ahead and email me, letting me know that you want to be on the list, and then I will send you that email.
Thank you.
Yep.
Chris, thank you for outlining the steps to submit a request. So did you say that we will get an email asking with a reminder to send in the request for proposals?
Yes. So once I put it on the website, I send out an email. What I sent out last fall was our standard RFP email, which was very confusing to a lot of people. So I've tried to make it more vendor friendly and just, I mean, it's just our old process, getting into this new process and just making it easier for everyone. So I will send out an email. It will say psychoeducation RFP released. I think in the subject line is usually what it says. And it'll just explain, it'll give our website that you can go and get the document. I don't want to send the documents themselves out because that gets lost in people's emails, but there will be a link to our website just stating that we have released it, and kind of, I try to outline the timeline on it.
Excellent, thanks. And then just one other question. Did you say that psychoeducation will then take the place of wellness services? Did I hear that right?
nope, it'll be, so it'll still be different. So if you are providing wellness services to a consumer, that would still apply. It would be if you were also providing, skills or wellness type services to a consumer's family member or natural support, that is now falling under psychoeducation. So that's one way to help kind of differentiate it in our head a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that one?
I do have a question. Is there any certain like trainings or degree, or could it be a regular worker to provide that, just like skills and wellness?
Yes. Yep. So it can be any worker. Yep.
Okay.
That would work. Yep. Doing the same kind of training if they're a rehabilitation worker, all of that would apply.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, the last one that we have to talk about is CCS employment related skills.
Yes. So we talked about this last time, I think in November. And so I'll just do another kind of broad overview of the employment related skills training service array category. So this would address the consumer's mental health, substance use, symptom-related problems in finding, securing, and keeping a job. So how does one's mental health impact their ability to work? Some of the services would include employment or education assessments, assistance in accessing or participating in employment-related services or educational-related services, just education around appropriate behaviors on the job, assistance with job prep, such as personal hygiene, clothing, transportation, other barriers to successfully maintaining or obtaining a job. You can also provide on-site employment evaluation and feedback sessions, as well as assistance with work-related crisis. So that could be really kind of run the gamut of things that impact someone's job and how that is affecting them. Services that are not covered, not allowable, not a billable service would be like sheltered workshops or job development activities. And so job development activities are related to finding specific jobs. So that's just something to keep in mind if that's part of your kind of philosophy or practice, is that job development when you are proposing a rate, to ensure that you're accounting for all of that kind of non-reimbursable time within your rate setting. Are there any questions on employment related skills?
Is that done by a single provider?
Nope. So this would be similar to the psychoeducation, the RFP network of providers. So it wouldn't be just one provider.
Okay, thank you.
Emily, can you give me a little more clarification for the difference between the on-site employment, the evaluation? Is that them working for you and your note taking versus the job development?
So the on-site assessment or evaluation would be with the consumer, kind of observing how are they functioning at their job, how are they doing, what are some of the barriers or some of the skills that as the employment specialist I can assess and assist with some of that communication between the employer and the consumer. And the job development activities are kind of, I think of those more on the kind of behind the scenes. If I was an employment specialist, I might be calling different employers in the community and kind of having some of those partnerships, saying, I have somebody that might be interested or might be a potential good fit, doing some of that kind of cold calling, just to see if it would be the right fit, if people have openings, if they are hiring. Kind of building that relationship is kind of a key component to some of the evidence-based employment services within CCS. So it's more of that, like the consumer's not there, but as the employment specialist, I'm trying to connect with other employers in the community. So that's why it's not a billable service, because the consumer's not present. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Boy, we're almost right on time, just 5 minutes early. The Children's Long-Term Support Waiver vendor information then, Shelley and Angie.
Yeah, we were just going to do another update on for vendors that are doing daily living skills for our Children's Long-Term Support Waiver Program and counseling and therapeutic services. A reminder of just the 6-month progress reports that we need on the children that are in those two services. And those would get sent directly to the service facilitator or service coordinator, whoever is working with that child. And so we wanted to just remind that again. I know there's been some that we haven't been getting, so we just want to keep reminding providers of that. Angie, did you have another thing on the agenda for that?
I think that was mostly it. Just a heads up, Chris, I believe, has reached out to any provider that was affected by the waiver changes and reorganizing and renaming of some waiver services. So those should be in process. If you were not contacted, it likely doesn't affect you. But if you have questions on any of that, or wish to register as a provider for one of the new services, please reach out to us.
That's on my to-do list, so I will be reaching out to the ones that are affected. The state changed some
I know that we reached out to some, but I'm guessing they've been some that had claims processing. The other thing that goes along with this, just take a re-peek at authorizations, because some codes have been changed.
Okay, are there any questions for the Children's Long-Term Support Waiver? CCS vendor information.
Okay, so we have, in January, I believe we had a telehealth impromptu kind of conference, and we talked about some of the upcoming permanent telehealth changes. And so I wanted to just review those, and we've created kind of an updated invoice template and a progress note template that I wanted to share with everybody here, and then we will send out as well. Nothing has changed with the what we talked about in January around some of the changes. We still don't know the date that that's going to be, but we will keep everybody in the loop of when we get the word of when it's going to be a permanent. So I'm going to share first our invoice or our progress note template. And let me know if it needs to get bigger at all.
Yeah, I think a little bigger would be good.
Oh, is that
too big?
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. So this is our progress note template, and vendors don't have to use our template. It is encouraged if you don't have one. So if you don't have like an electronic health record, it has everything that QA wise, all the components on the progress note template. And if you don't have our template, that's perfectly fine. Just wanting to ensure that these pieces are still a part of your template. So the consumer name, date of service, the service CCS service array, that's all the same. So you would pick whichever service array category that you are authorized for and billing for. The provider location and consumer location, those are new areas. We have a drop-down box, so you just click on the arrow and you would choose as the provider, your location that you were providing the service. So if you are working from home and you're approved by your agency to work from home, you might technically be at home, but you're in your home office. So you would just choose office because your home is now your office setting. So that's perfectly fine to just use your office. Consumer location would also be, if they're at their home or if they're in the office. These are kind of the main ones. Again, just choosing literally where their location is during the session. The type of contact is also new, and the delineation there is face-to-face, audio only, so that would be phone calls, audio visual, that would be like what we're doing right now, doing Teams or. And then asynchronous, wanted to highlight this area. Asynchronous, it would be like a text, email, or fax. Those are non-billable. So why we put that on here is people might still want to document the exchange, but knowing that that won't be billable. So it's more of like providing that documentation and that story for the chart, but it's not a billable service. So these three, the provider location, consumer location, and type of contact, are new fields on the progress note. That is, I don't believe there's anything else that was changed on this form. And then to match the progress note with our invoice, we also added on the, see if I can pull that up here. Here we go. On the invoice template, we added, I'll make this a little bit bigger. This column E, type of contact. And so there's a drop-down box with those face-to-face, audio only, audio visual, or travel. Travel is a separate line because it's a different CPT code. But in the service description, you're going to want to also put, like if it's travel, what service it was connected to. So this is just an example, service planning, ISDE, that would be like team meetings. So nothing else is different with the invoice except for the column E type of contact. And that's to help with our fiscal and our QA team, because there are different qualifiers that our fiscal team has to put in. If you are doing documentation, if your documentation is on a separate, if it's not connected to the service. So I have to think through how to share this and not complicate it, confuse people. Often, a lot of times people will provide the service and then they will type up their note and it's just all on one day. And the service on here would include that. So you wouldn't even put like a documentation line or anything on here. There are times that people do their documentation on a different day that the service was provided. So if that's the case and you are billing just for that documentation, you're going to need to make sure to put, okay, the service was a telehealth, let's say it was an audio only telehealth service. You're going to want to also, if you put down documentation over here, you're going to want to put documentation for that ISDE service. Over here, it was a audio visual. That'll help clean things up from the QA side. Otherwise, they're going to have to go back. They don't know what service the documentation was connected to. So, and this is not, I think a lot of vendors are currently just having it all under one, and that's perfectly fine. There's some vendors that bill for their documentation on a different day of the service. So that's where there's the differentiation. Any questions on those pieces?
I have a question, Emily.
Yeah.
So for the service planning, if Shelby joins the team meeting on the computer, would that still count as face-to-face or would it be audio visual?
Yep. So if you, as the provider, if you're joining virtually, then that would be telehealth. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yep. Yeah, because that does happen where there might be part of the team meeting is in face-to-face, in person, and then some members are calling in or doing it via Teams. And so whatever you are doing, like as the provider. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
I've got a quick question, Emily. This is Olivia. I'm just wondering if you are with the consumer joining via telehealth.
Yep. So you are with the consumer joining telehealth to a team meeting.
Would that be face-to-face or?
I think because the team meeting, just thinking what you're doing in that moment is a team meeting. I'm thinking that would be virtual because you are, even though you're with the consumer, you're joining virtually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question leading off of that. So then could we bill travel for telehealth if it took us a half hour to get to the consumer's house and then it was a virtual SP visit? Because we've always billed it like SP face-to-face because we're face-to-face with the consumer and we needed to bill that half hour to get to that next town.
That is a good question, and I don't want to, I need to think through that.
Okay.
So,
we haven't had it denied, but we weren't sure. So we assumed it was right just because to bill travel for telehealth would raise a question.
Right. Yep.
But I
So
see
that
the
is
other
a-
point too.
Yeah. Let me think through these scenarios a little bit more, because you are absolutely right. And so what I just said to Jenny might, you might trump what I just said to Jenny, because you can't bill for travel if it's a telehealth service. So it would likely then be face-to-face.
Okay. And obviously not all clients do we have to travel for, but
right.
We have quite a few over in Monroe County.
Yep, that's very impactful over there. So
I would just
good.
add my 2 cents on that one, Emily, because if you could add in maybe, you're focusing on 10 minutes before the meeting, ISDE, then you could bill for that and bill for the 10 minutes, and then the service planning would be separate if you're adding that in.
Right. And so this is more, it's at the end of the day, and this is going to sound bad. It's not a huge deal whether you kind of which way we go, right? If we go I think the biggest piece will be what we talked about with telehealth and travel. They don't go together. So yeah, I think just kind of critically thinking through some of those scenarios. And if you are providing a service, because you're supporting the consumer and you're meeting with them face to face, but then you're attending the team meeting virtually with them, I do think what Stacy said is a good point, that you're probably providing some level of skill building or emotional support prior to that team meeting to then be able to support them at the team meeting. So yeah, Ellen and Ryan and I can connect on maybe even giving some scenarios around some of those delineations.
Sounds good.
Because in that case, then I think we'd still have to ensure that there was a ISDE part of the services before and after the service planning. So that travel to and from could be filled.
And that would be like 3 notes.
And like just
For
more coordinating to know that there needs to be a front end and a back end to that service planning meeting.
Yep. Yeah. So then it might make sense to do it as a face-to-face.
And
but we'll
our
have to
thought-
kind of
when we did it, our thought was that we have our staff say, traveled to client's home for team meeting. Client and I either called in or attended on Zoom with service facilitator and whoever else. So ours kind of says we went there and we were audio visual, or if it was just audio, which usually it's not. And then we assumed then that the service facilitator would have that telehealth note. And, so between all of the participants' notes, the picture would be clear as to how it was.
Yep. And that's really good to help kind of paint that picture, for sure.
I just had a question, Emily. As far as the for individual skill enhancement on the invoice that you had enhancement or you had individual skill. What is the difference that you're doing with? I mean, why does one say enhancement, one says, is it just?
It's because the individual skill development and enhancement is a lot of words to fit in the service description.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
just shortened it. So,
Okay. I'm just making sure that I wasn't missing something there.
Nope, you are not
Okay.
missing anything. Yeah, you can put ISDE. It's all the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, any other questions around the invoice template and progress note.
Emily,
may
I
have-
just question. This is Vanessa with Innovative Services. So with that column E, currently that's not on there. When are you guys hoping, like for March billing? Is that?
It's so you'll need to start using the new invoice and the new progress note template when the permanent telehealth policy goes into effect. We don't have that date yet. I plan on, I'm going to send this out early so people can start using it, and that's perfectly fine. So I'm actually going to send it out after this meeting, either today or tomorrow, to give to everybody, just to have, but it won't officially start that we need to have these telehealth kind of location and type of contact in place until the permanent telehealth policies in effect.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question, Emily. This is Ellen Driftless Job Finder in regards to the release of information we're supposed to get for people to sign. Has a decision been made on exactly what you want in there, or are we just supposed to still come up with our own? I mean, I've been working on one, but I wanted to see if you guys had a template yet for that, or.
So it's up to each agency to create their own kind of informed, I think it's like the informed consent that you're speaking about. Yep. And it can be something, it doesn't have to be anything super extravagant, just kind of hitting that people know what their rights are in terms of receiving telehealth services, and that they can, they don't have to receive telehealth services. They can decline that. We can send out the the permanent telehealth policy has some language around what needs to be in there. So that's something that we can send out when I send out the templates, just to give people an idea.
That'd be great.
Okay, and yeah, so around that the documentation piece, I just want to reiterate that if you are that the documentation needs to match the service and the appropriate kind of qualifier or telehealth description based on the service provided. So again, if you are putting that on a separate line on the invoice because you did the documentation on a different day of service, just make sure that you're putting documentation, ISDE, audiovisual, if that's how the service was. So we don't typically have, typically we don't have, we don't necessarily separate the documentation and service unless it's on a different day that you're billing for it. So if that doesn't apply to you guys, don't worry about it. There's just, I think, a few agencies that bill documentation on a different day that it was provided. So. Any other questions around those pieces? Okay. I am going to then hand it over to either Ellen or Ryan. We're going to provide some 2021 program outcome data.
Sure. Yeah, I can take it up. Hey, everyone. Yeah, so in our program, we utilize a few tools to gather data on what is going on with the individuals and families that we're serving. It helps us formulate service plans. It helps us look at trends of what we're noticing across the program, and it's helpful to pass along to all of you because many times there are questions like, hey, what should we be focusing on? What should we be preparing for? How can we get our services in line with what the trends are that we're seeing? So that's kind of the background for all of this. So I'm going to share my screen here. And just kind of give you a really broad overview of some of the trends that we're noticing and what we're seeing. So this tool that we use, these two tools, there's the Child and Adolescent Needs and Strengths Assessment, or CANS. And on the adult side, we have the ANSA, the Adult Needs and Strengths Assessment. Both of these tools are designed to be collaborative in nature. They're not really like how bad is it tools. They are what is your story tools, and how do we capture somebody's story to look for qualitative metrics. So we're essentially measuring people's stories and what is on their minds, what are the things they're celebrating, what are the things they're struggling with. And with that, we can get some outcomes and numerical data from that we can use to, again, inform our service plans, to share with all of you, and talk about trends that we see across the program. So yeah, the tools are designed to be support decision-making tools, not necessarily how bad is it tools. So they're not severities. It's really designed to measure and note what is being talked about in a conversation. So I don't know if this is relevant to everybody, but just to kind of give some sense, we do these on a regular basis, at minimum every 6 months when we do our service plan reviews. I know in the youth world, we tend to do them towards the end of school or when school is about to start up again, when big life events happen, because the story keeps changing, right? It's always moving, it's always dynamic, and we're trying to get the most recent story of what is happening. But here's kind of some of the trends that we noticed as we looked at the youth and the adults and the families that we were serving throughout 2021. So for the youth that were coming into the program this past year, the biggest one that you can see there is impulse control. 70% of our youth coming in had some sort of struggle with impulse control, ADHD, just really managing how do I react to situations. The next two, a lot of struggles with functioning with peers and family members. So how do I relate and have friendships? How do I relate to my family? Lots of family conflict that we're seeing, and that's slowly been a constant over the last few years. So we've seen kind of this emergence from a lot of you adapting to how do we support family members differently? How do we do services in the home a little bit differently to kind of help address some of that family relationship issue? Oppositional behaviors and anger control, a lot of frustrated youth, about half of the youth that are coming into the program, just trying to figure out how do I respond to things and manage all this frustration and anger that I might be carrying with me. And just under half are struggling to process a traumatic event that's happened in their life. And that could be abuse or neglect related. That could be from poverty or witnessing or experiencing crime or medical trauma. It could look a lot of different ways. So when we talk about trauma-informed care or trauma-responsive practices, how can we understand where some of our youth are coming in from? So yeah, that left column is new admissions, so brand new to the program. On the right, these are the individuals that have been in the program, and this is part of their 6-month and annual review process, and kind of the trends that we're seeing with the youth who have been in the program for more than a year. So again, big ones, family relationship conflict, struggling with peers and developing friendships. Impulse control is still up there. And then daily living skills. One of the trends that we're kind of seeing is a lot of our youth that enrolled are becoming teenagers and getting ready for that transitional age, and really looking at how are we getting ready for independence and launching into adulthood? So there are a number of youth that we're anticipating coming into that transitional age range. I don't know if that was shared, but we just hired recently 3 new transitional age workers to kind of help navigate some of that as we're anticipating that need emerging here in the next couple of years. So it's kind of some of the trends that we're seeing with our youth. This tool also looks at strengths. What are our youth bringing in with them when they come into the program? So a lot of our youth are coming in with interests and specialized talents. And I think the encouragement to all of you would be trying to figure out what those are and how can we utilize that. A lot of times there are questions, how can we adapt or expand or improve our services? And it could be that we're looking at what are the trends that you're seeing amongst these talents and interests? Like how can we pull in like Lego Club or something? Or I know there was one agency that was talking about they got a curriculum of building social skills via Minecraft or something like that. So we're trying to use this already existing interest and how can we adapt that into meeting some of these needs. A lot of support from extended family and educational. So we're trying to work with our teams to expand our natural support network. How do we get more teachers at the table? How do we get more family and friends that aren't the immediate caregivers at the table and pulling them in to help be part of that problem solving? And then, yeah, I'm just trying to think. Things to develop. So on the right-hand side of this, some of the lower rated skills that sometimes it's helpful as we're talking about impulse control or managing frustration. What are some of the things that we can build up and strengths and capacities that we can build on to maybe mitigate some of the challenges that we're seeing our youth bring in? So getting out and finding ways to volunteer or talking about what does the future hold for you, that vocational skill building, how to build up decision-making capacities. How do we think through a decision and be thoughtful? I know we were talking about that a little bit at a vendor clinical call this morning. Like how instead of presenting choices to some of our youth, how do we engage them in the conversation? Hey, we have to get this done. How could we go about this? And practicing some of that, how to make a decision. I think another one, just to kind of point out connections to the community. How are we connecting our youth with their local resources? Some of our youth do feel like, hey, I get pulled out to go to this thing over here. And how can we look at getting them more connected to things that their peers are doing? And what is normative for everybody else in their classroom or others that they're trying to connect with and build those friendships with? So again, just some really broad data points. If anybody's really interested in the data for the youth, we have about 180 data points that we collect information on, but these are just kind of the top 5 in those areas. So for visual people like myself, I like to see graphs and movement and what's happening. These are the main domains that the youth tool looks at, and just kind of how we're seeing admission to discharge over the past year. So the general life functioning and the daily living skills, kind of getting some improvement, and then maybe at discharge it looks like it's going down a little bit. General mental health challenges, we're seeing some progress. School behaviors and school achievement, we're noticing a reverse where things are getting more challenging. We're going to have to look into that a little bit more and figure out what is the trend within that group and partner with our schools to talk through that a little bit more. But child and family conflict, with the improvements that are happening, so these percentages are how many youth are struggling with this. So child and family conflict, still a high rated item. Even though at discharge we're seeing like this big improvement that 62% of youth are struggling with family relations, and at the end only about a third, but still one of the highest rated items that we're seeing. And as I'm rambling through all this, I don't know if there are like questions or thoughts, reflections, feedback before I kind of move on to our families and caregivers.
Thank you, Ryan. That was incredibly interesting. I was just kind of curious about the age group of the kids. Is it all school age kids? So it'd be
Yeah. So for the cans, it would be youth up to 18. And in CCS, we're talking, our range of youth that we're serving is about 5 to 18 is who would be represented here.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Actually, I realized I forgot a slide. Building strengths, just kind of some historic ones that have been points of interest as we're building up strengths of some of our youth. Again, even though a lot of youth come in with needs of peer relations and struggling with social skills, what we're noticing is by discharge, we're greatly improving the number of positive peer relations that most of our kids have. So kudos to all of you for helping to build that up. Positive decision making, that was a lower rated one, but then we're also seeing at discharge, it's greatly going up. General self-esteem and self-worth going up. The amount of natural supports and people in the community that are wrapping around and supporting our youth going up. So yeah, really appreciate all the work you're doing. Resiliency, that is can I call to mind a coping skill to use, and can I use that? And how do I have the skills needed to move forward with all of this? So yeah, so lots of good work going on out there. So thank you all. So with the youth tool, there's also a segment where we're gathering data on our family members as well. How are our parents and caregivers doing? Whoever is responsible for the child. And what we're seeing is the big ones are having connections. A lot of our families feel isolated. They're just struggling day to day, trying to take care of their kids. I really don't have a lot of time to connect with others. And because of that, then we also see like this buildup of the family stress. I don't really have a lot of people to reach out to and share this load with. And so I could see the connection there with problem solving then. Who do I reach out to talk through this and figure out alternative solutions for? And a lot of times that's where we all come in, and why the team meetings can be so important to help support our families and caregivers. So yeah, the left side is families that are coming in. The right side is families that have been continuing to be with us through last year. A lot of similar things: stress and support, and just help problem solving are consistently the top needs for both new families and ongoing families. So with that, I'm going to transition to our adult side of services. Again, another tool that we're just gathering people's stories, listening for trends and capturing them. So on our adult side of services, what we're seeing is a lot of adults that are coming into CCS have a trauma story, and they're trying to make sense of it. They could be newer to that processing or further along, but a lot of them struggling with their trauma and their past experiences. So again, just the look towards trauma-informed and trauma-responsive care as we're navigating and working alongside a lot of our adults. Depression, anxiety, the leading mental health impairments for our adults, which then kind of leads into challenges with social functioning, again, having connections, meaningful friends, and then also connecting that to meaningful activities. How do I have something to do with my time? So again, could kind of hypothesize a correlation there, that if I'm feeling overwhelmed and hopeless and worried about what if a lot of the time, how do I then navigate making new friends, making new connections, going out and joining a social club or finding a hobby that I can do with my time. So, and I know with the opioid epidemic, lots of interest around substance use. It was not in the top 5, but I did include the number there that about 20% of our adults coming into services are struggling with substance use. So interestingly enough, for our ongoing needs, for adults who have been in the program for more than a year, still seem to be a lot of the same top 5 needs. So likewise, we're also looking at strengths for our adults. So at admission, a lot have an education. They have either high school diploma, college degrees. 70% of our adults have some level of education that they have completed. A lot of them have a lot of hope and optimism that things can change. They're just not sure how to. So that's where they're reaching out to us to kind of help navigate. Building up that natural support network, resourcefulness, kind of knowing things in the community and who they can ask for help. All great things to kind of bring in. And then flip side, strengths that we're seeing on the lower side that maybe some of our adults need help building up. Again, employment, a big one, either volunteering, having a job, getting a job, just trying to navigate the employment world and securing some sort of income from. So tend to be the biggest barriers that we're seeing. Connections in the community and connections with peers and social connections. So lots of feelings of isolation. So again, I think a lot of our teams are trying to work through how do we help our adults feel connected, both with, again, peers and within their community. So for those that work in the adult side of services, just some ideas of where we can be targeting and looking at. So again, for our visual people, here's what it looks like visually. So 18 and up is who this is capturing from admission to discharge. We're seeing mental health go down. Substance use is pretty consistent, if not slightly going up. We're seeing hospitalizations go down, even though the unemployment and vocational need is pretty low at admission. We're seeing the needs go down by time of discharge. Just kind of curious because some of our adults have been in the program for a while, just kind of looking at trends. So this is kind of, this graph in particular is looking at needs at admission over the last few years. I think the biggest thing that can note with this one was COVID 2020 was definitely a year that kind of threw the scale off a little bit. Otherwise, it looks like between 2019 and 2021, a lot of the data seems fairly consistent or fairly close. So I know that's a question we get a lot too, like how are things changing? Is the landscape changing? I think at least just from this data, I could throw out a hypothesis that COVID year was kind of an outlier and we're kind of getting back to some normal trend of what the needs are for our adults. And likewise, just successes and kudos to give to all of you in helping build up capacities for our adults. We're building more community connections. We're expanding our social networks. While a lot of adults come in with some hope and optimism, they're leaving with even more. Employment is going up, even though it is a need at early onset. We're working with a lot of our teams and our adults to get them connected to opportunities, which then gets them more resources in their community that they can connect with. So I think that's the last end of it. So I don't know if there are any other questions or reflections, wonderings on the adult side, or I guess any of it, the youth, the families, or our adults. Yeah. Well, definitely a team and community effort. So a lot of those successes, again, thank you a lot for coming alongside and partnering with our youth, our adults, our families, and helping build up those capacities. So greatly appreciated. I know the families appreciate it as well.
Okay.
So I don't know where we are in the agenda, so I will pass it over to whomever is up
I
next.
think we just have just a little bit more on the end of CCS a little, and just a reminder, and just kind of going off of even what Ryan said, as you guys are meeting with families and facilitators and that for your team meetings and such, or even outside of that, if you are thinking that the person that you are working with could benefit from some additional services or anything like that, or any additional help areas, that make sure you're sharing that with the facilitator, and then they kind of will assess that with their mental health practitioner to kind of assess where that fits clinically to help them in their recovery process, as far as what CCS is on the plan, is there to support the consumer with. I think that's the only addition. I don't know if anybody else has anything else to add.
Are there any other questions from the vendors? CCS or general questions? Well, the next meeting is on Tuesday, July 12th at 10 a.m. So it's scheduled from 10 to noon usually, but we don't usually go until noon unless we have a busy agenda. So that will be our next meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you in July.